What happens when your identity, your relationships, and your desires begin to shift and you're not sure who you're becoming? In today's episode, Krish Phua helps us reclaim connection, intimacy, and sexual wellness as essential parts of our resilience during life's transitions. Welcome back to Happiness on Tap, where we bring you inspiring stories and practical insights for a happier, more fulfilling life. Your go-to podcast for uplifting conversations that stir the heart and ignite the spirit. I'm your host, Leann, and today's guest is someone whose work is rooted in compassion, authenticity, and the healing power of human connection. Krish is a Singapore-based counselor, psychotherapist, and certified sexologist with over a decade of experience walking alongside individuals, couples, and families, navigating the complex landscapes of gender, sexuality, intimacy, and identity. He's currently a senior counselor and intimacy and sexual wellness therapist at Underneath the Moon, where he helps people rewrite their stories around desire, love, and belonging. Krish brings a multicultural, trauma-informed lens to his practice, whether working with marginalized communities or offering clinical support and workshops across Southeast Asia. Today, we're diving into resilience through life transitions, especially for women reimagining themselves in midlife and beyond. What happens to our sense of self, our partnerships, our pleasure when everything shifts? And how can we reconnect with our bodies, our needs, and our desires through it all? Krish is here to help us navigate it with grace, courage, and maybe even a little joy. Welcome to the show, Krish. It is so amazing to have you with me today.
Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you. It's my honor. I'm very, very happy to be here, Lee, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited about this conversation. Both you and I have been patiently waiting to get to this conversation.
Yeah, we are counting down. We can have a deep chat together in a casual way. Yeah, I like it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Krish, your work spans over many layers: therapy, sexuality, relationships, and healing. What first drew you into this field?
Very good question. Well, I've been in this line for more than 10 years. I think I started with a certain kind of personal and also professional growth within my career. And I started with management first in the private sector and also later on people sector in the charitable organization. But throughout the years, I have this very deep calling in me that I would like to understand human behavior and also to support others. That's why I came to a charitable organization for more than 12 years then. And on the other hand, growing in Singapore, where intimacy, sexuality, relationships, and emotion are often not openly talked about, and I do witness certain times, some people, they are struggling with this unspoken expectation socially, and then how their capacity, their capability, and confidence are being affected to the extent that their mental and physical wellness is no longer up there. So I think over the times, I feel that, wow, I don't want to do that, just only therapy. I want to integrate, not only treating the problems, I want to integrate and facilitate healing, growth, as well as self-compassion. And in that case, my professional counseling must extend to other areas as well. For example, sexology, integrating the body, mind, soul, heart, spirituality dimension, so that my service to my clients could be more holistic and more comprehensive. Yeah, I think that is something that I'm aiming for, and I'm still doing that. And I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah, you sure are. And I When I first started and earned my certification, it was general health and life, but it did encompass spirituality, which was great. So that helped me focus my direction on a more holistic mind, body. I make sure one of my number one priorities is self-care and giving yourself permission and understanding your past traumas. I mean, we're one whole person, but we have so many layers. And if somebody just wants to come to me for money coaching or career coaching, once we really look at the whole person, we see where they're struggling in almost every area of their life.
Exactly, exactly. I just want to add on, a lot of time we say whatever to be mentioned should be handled by a social worker. But somehow the complexity of our life is so many aspects and they are interrelated with each other. And somehow when we are doing our so-called mental health, wellness as a professional counselor, we also need to handle other aspects of their life. For example, just now you mentioned career, not only relationship or other things. I think our job is getting more complex, but this is something that our clients need. I think we need to train ourselves to be able to do that as well, so that our service could be more holistic and comprehensive, as I mentioned just now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I like about my general certification, plus adding to it my experience and all of the different modalities that I learned in my own healing, and being able to turn all of that into a referral service, because I may not be able to help everyone or be everyone's cup of tea, but I am happy to refer them to the right person for them. And that too goes to why I even launched this podcast, because I can bring people like you on and be able to refer somebody and say, well, here, I know this great guy, Krish, and he can really help you. But watch this podcast episode so that they can connect with you, not just through an email or a phone call or an ad that pops up on the internet, but they actually get to see your face, your personality, your kindness, your compassion. And then they can say, yeah, I really want to work with this guy. I really want to get to know him more. So, that's how we continue to grow in our practice and our services to others.
Well said, really well said. Right now, it's because just as we mentioned, technology today is really connect people no matter where you are. As long as you have a computer, Wi-Fi, then you can connect with other people. And this is exactly how we are able to help the community, the village, the whole world, by connecting, referring with each other, so that they get to the right people who are able to help them. That is the beauty of this podcast as well. That's why I say I want to do this with Leann.
Thank you so much. And I was so happy to have you referred to me. And I want to know
Thank you.
more about, underneath the moon, and what kind of work do you do with clients there?
Thank you. Well, I must say, Underneath the Moon is less than 2 years old. Okay, it's founded by Dr. Matali. Okay, we consider ourselves an inclusive therapy and wellness platform to support individuals and couples to when they are navigating intimacy, sexuality, relationships, as well as mental well-being. And me being the certified sexologist, senior counselor, as well as an intimacy and sexual wellness therapist, I will work very much in serving my clients across diverse backgrounds, gender, sexual orientation, or anything. It could be sexual functioning, desire differences, relationship conflicts, trauma and addiction recovery, even identity exploration. We will cover that. And I think one thing about the beauty of Underneath the Moon is that we are very into safety and also not judgmental space. That is our promise to our clients. And we are helping them to let them see what hold them back and what are the things that they fulfill. They are able to make connection with themselves and others, so that they are able to be authentic self and also have a leading a empower living that they desire, that they deserve as well. That is very important to us.
Absolutely. And I think that is another, one of the many connections between you and I where we're very similar minded. When I launched my business and opened my office to do in-person coaching, as well as launched my women's circle, the whole purpose was this is a shame-free, judgment-free zone. You leave that outside the room. We're here in community. We're here to share our stories, in confidence, but in a way that we can connect in sharing our stories. And I know that, when we're getting our education, they want us to keep our personal lives separate and just lead. But that doesn't work for me in connecting with my clients. Being able to share my experiences, what I have gone through, really helps them see that they're not alone. I hold that space for them. I make sure they know that they're seen, that they're heard. And then we can walk together towards their goal. So yeah, I'm right there with you on providing a shame-free, judgment-free zone.
That is very, very beautiful. I can tell you, a person with issues, with problem or whatever, they take a lot of courage and bravery to seek for help. Yeah. When they want to seek for help, they feel very danger. The danger is always there, the feeling of anxiety, the depression, everything, the uncertainty. So if we are the professional helpers, if we are unable to give them this kind of feeling of safety and trustworthiness, is very, very bad for them. So really, we need to facilitate them to seek help so that they can be better. I think that is our ethical, moral values as a professional helper. We need to uphold that. Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah. And I like how we chose this topic and who we're going to speak to, and focusing on women in major life transitions. That is, who I work with. I work with Gen X women who have given their entire life to taking care of everybody else and not taking care of themselves, whether they're just people pleasers by nature or codependent, or that they just never knew that we should be taking care of ourselves, which was my situation. It was never something that I was told I should be doing so that I can be my best self for others. It was just expected of me to always be that caregiver for others, and that my needs, my wants, my desires were not a priority. And if I had those things as a priority, then I was being selfish. And that is such a horrible mindset to inherit from our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunts, a society. When we are full in ourselves and we get to choose that role as a caregiver or a wife, a submissive or whatever, when we choose and we're in ourselves, we are our best selves. And we thrive in that. And, it doesn't lead to resentment or, we have better communication because we're in ourselves, we're in our values. And so I appreciate that you wanted to have this conversation to help these women and show them. So when women go through these major life transitions like divorce, menopause, empty nesters, I've been through all of them. How do you see these shifts impacting their sense of identity and resilience?
That is a very, very extremely beautiful question and very important question, very significant question, in fact. And I'm very happy that you asked this question. I have seen so many female clients, they are having the issue that now you share about your personal stories. Yeah. And I want to highlight to you, when this kind of life transition happen, for example, it may be divorce or menopause or children leaving their home, they always challenge the woman's sense of identity. Yeah. And then because they spend so much time, energy, and resources in these roles, may it be a partner, a wife, a mother or a caregiver. Yeah. So when this kind of role shifted or not wanted or not needed anymore, oh, the feeling of loss, grief, confusion, or even liberation just gone. Yeah, just appearing. And then they, to the extent that they may even question themselves, what is their worth? What is the purpose and meaning in life? That is a very crucial situation we need to pay attention on. Yeah. So, however, I do see some clients, they are women, midlife women, midlife, I should say. They do have resilience in themselves. Yeah, they do have resilience. They are able to take the opportunity to reclaim parts of themselves. Okay, so that they are, which they have been neglected for a long time, they are able to do that. And I wish they could be as beautiful as they could and deserve to. And I hope many more women could be like that. Take such opportunity as self-reclaiming. I use this term, self-reclaiming, to uncover, okay, what are they beyond the roles in the past, so that they are able to build a sense of inner strength rooted in their own beliefs, values, and also their dreams and desire, of course. I really hope more women could be like that.
It was a personal journey.
I know it's not
Because
easy.
Yep, I did that. 20 years of marriage, raised 2 children. Then my children were grown and gone. So, and then menopause at 40. So I started menopause early. So
Oh,
I was just
early.
coming out of a 20-year marriage and in
Yeah.
menopause, and my kids were
Mm.
gone. And it was the first time I had lived alone in my life and had to get an apartment for myself. And I didn't know who I was. Like, I walked into this apartment with, who am I? How do I even want to decorate my space? And so it was a journey of acknowledging my life and this self reclamation, like you said, being able to know that I could start over and find this whole new world that was out there just waiting to be experienced. And I really enjoyed the journey. I didn't spend time focused on my lost identity. I looked at those things as lessons and, beautiful experiences, and those are the things that made me who I am. But now I get to explore and experience things that I didn't have time to or even know existed. And I got to go to yoga classes and go hiking and buy things that were my passion. So, I hope that, sharing my story, when I do share my story, helps other women see the path that is available to them so that they're not stuck in struggling with their own self-worth, and that there's so many beautiful possibilities out there.
This is simply beautiful. As I mentioned, I have clients like you, really, when they lost certain kind of identity, they are able to have self-awareness and they work on it, and then they do something positive for themselves. And they started to say, oh, I'm buying things for myself, no longer for the family. It's me, I, mine, which is very good, as like your experience and whatever you share. And I bet you never turn back. You never look back, in a sense that you appreciated the opportunity given to you to make you end with that juncture in life, but you chose the right path. You never look back. I really hope more women will be like you, really. And that is our opportunity, that is our job, our responsibility to help them to do that. I really feel that, I really hope that more women listen to this podcast and then they know we inspire them what to do for their life. Reclaiming, that is the term.
Yeah, it is. so empowering to be able to share my story and hope that it is that path for somebody to see it and say, oh, there is this possibility for me. Because I think I really, not only just that I'm buying for me, I'm getting to learn all these things about me, but really creating my own new identity. And then I got to see where before I was a traditional 1950s housewife because it was an identity I inherited.
Mm-hmm.
And now in my marriage, I chose the role that I am in now with full autonomy, with voice, with, living in my values. And before we even entered the relationship, we both came together with who we are as individuals and spoke those things out loud and discussed where we wanted our relationship to go, or determined if this isn't the right relationship for us, if we're not on the same page going forward, then we don't want to waste each other's times. I don't want to repeat old patterns and old cycles. I am at a new phase, a new season, and I want the relationship that is meant for this phase in my life.
Beautiful. And in fact, right now I'm helping a client, a female client. She just discovered that the husband has some stray behavior, and then she started to feel very, as per usual, devastated, disbelief, the kind of painful experiences we are walking through the experiences. And then to the extent that she saying that, no, this is not me. When I married him for 16 years, I lost myself. I have version 1 before I meet him. Then with him together, I lost myself. I'm in version 2. No, right now I want to create version 3 for myself. And this is something that we are working on. And it's so beautifully done. She knows exactly what I want in this marriage. Should I stay? Should I go? If I stay, what are the terms and conditions I need to be with him? Or what are the things that at the same time, I don't want to lose myself anymore. I want to create my own happiness. I want my professional role, she said. And then she said, I want to do this, A, B, C, D, E. Then we look into what are the possibilities, what are the things, resources you need, that kind. And then she's so happy. Wow, the husband, full of regrets, full of remorse, something like that, cannot turn back the time, everything. But will this marriage go on? We are still in the process, but no matter what happened, this lady is standing up for herself the very first time after 16 years of marriage.
That is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. It's so beautiful to experience and to walk with somebody through their own personal growth and seeing that side of themselves where they do get to have that voice and make those choices. Like, and for you and for, me and my role to provide them options that they don't maybe have never seen or thought of. Maybe they are stuck under religious obligations and feel like you can't leave the marriage, societal things, So when we provide them with a different way to look at things and options and let them know that they are not divorce. They didn't fail.
Absolutely. I think, as you mentioned just now, we facilitate them to uncover what are the resources, choices, options that they can have. And we also encourage them, whatever decision you make, you are the person who is responsible for the outcome, account for it. That is personal growth. That is so important. No matter are you a woman or man or other gender, doesn't matter, but it's the self-sense of agency, self-empowerment, autonomy, just now you used the word, self-governance, self-reliance. That is so beautiful in these days. We need to have that individually.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the most common emotional or relational challenges women face during these transitions?
Okay, if you're referring to those transitions just now we mentioned, could it be like a divorce, menopause, or emptiness, or whatever things, or betrayal? I think a lot of very common feelings that I can identify. The first one is loneliness. It's so obvious. They may not be able to notice, to label it, but the loneliness is always there. The feeling of being physically, emotionally, and also psychologically disconnected from their partners, from their children, for even themselves. Just like I mentioned, I lost myself for the 16 years of marriage. Right now, I want to create my version 3. Yeah. So these are the things that is very common. Loneliness is number one. Number two, I must say that is the self-doubt. The self-doubt. That they have this very strong internalized belief that they are no longer whole, no longer a complete person. Yeah, without this kind of partnership, marriage, children, house, or whatever. They feel that they are no longer a complete person. The wholeness is no longer there. And then they find that sometimes they find that they are not attractive anymore. They are not desirable anymore. And then especially for people who are going through, women going through menopause or after divorce, it's very common. I always see this thing. The third one could be guilt, the feeling of guilt that they sometimes they choose, like for example, this client, yeah, she chose that I want to be version 3. Then what happens is that she feel guilt. Yeah, she had this guilty feeling that how can I choose myself over other things, over my children, over my husband? I say no, you shouldn't do that. This is yourself. Even you are in a partnership, in a marriage, in a family, you cannot lose your agency. You are still an individual. Respect that. I think this guilt shouldn't be there. The next one will be grief as well, in a sense that they are losing certain kind of roles in themselves, just like I mentioned, yeah, the loss of identity, to the extent that they feel that their dreams, their desire, their aspiration has been lost along the way when they form this family, form this partnership, form this marriage. The next one will be more on tension, in the sense that they certain kind of physical hormonal changes in them, reduced libido, or even the priority in life evolve, changes along the way. They may have this strained emotional connection within themselves that they feel uncomfortable with that. So these are the few feelings that I can see typically exhibited in their women who are having certain kind of life transition in them. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all very similar in all of those areas.
Really. Really. So you see, a very typical feelings that we go through, especially women, yeah, when they are having certain kind of life transition, as I mentioned, menopause, divorce, emptiness, or whatever, career change, or whatever, that kind of things really is not uncommon. The feeling that I mentioned is very true. It's always there, as you experience just now. Yeah, I think you experienced before. Yeah. How do you feel about that? How do you get yourself out of that
It was,
cycle?
yeah, it was a lot of different layers for each situation. The loneliness when my kids moved out of the house. You know, you think now it's going to be just me and my partner, and our relationship is really now has an opportunity to bloom as two individuals, not just as a family. But maybe then there is a complete disconnection versus a growth in the relationship. And mine became, yeah, a very lonely existence. I was kind of functioning as a single individual because I didn't feel like I had that connection to my partner. We didn't have that communication. Whole lot of self doubt. I think my self doubt was, if I make this decision to leave the marriage, I doubted my self worth, or that I could find somebody that would accept me for who I was, you know, an older woman with 2 children and a divorce and a bankruptcy and all of this baggage that becomes this identity that you carry with you. So it does create a lot of self-doubt that you have any self-worth going forward to give to another person. But what I learned for myself, and I spent about 3 years in between my divorce and my next relationship, was to love myself. I didn't worry about finding another partner to fill that void. To fill that void, I needed to truly love myself and find out what that was, where I hadn't received love, maybe as a child, or, healing those different parts of myself first. Once I found that autonomy in myself and learned to love myself, then I was ready to share that love with another person. But I came to that with a different level of who I was. And then guilt, like you said, I had a lot of guilt in leaving the relationship. Because I was raised in a Hispanic background where you stay forever. Doesn't matter how bad it is. You honor those marriage vows that you took till death do us part. I wish marriage vows really didn't exist, or they were written in a different way, because I think we get tied to that commitment and we think we have to stay. I think a lot of, people stay in abusive relationships because of that commitment. Grief was something I didn't expect. I didn't expect this heavy grief about the relationship that I lost, the loss of what I thought it was or what I thought it could be. So I really had to take that time to go through all those things, to go through the grief, to understand why I was feeling the way that I was. So, you really hit on all of the,
Thank you.
most common.
Okay, my more than 10 years of experience serving women is not something that just like that. Yeah, I do learn through them. Very, very difficult, very suffering, a lot of suffering along the way, but they do something for themselves. That is something that I really appreciate. Yeah, I think really. So I learn from them. They teach me some good lessons in life. Then I can equip myself better to serve other more women. I think this is something that we need to do because we need to facilitate the self-growth. As I say, don't lose your agency as a person, no matter what happened to you. Thank you, Leann, doing for yourself.
Thank you. I love sharing it too. Let's look at kind of the sexuality and connection,
Sure.
because that was a big thing for me as well. How do you help women to begin to reconnect with their sexuality after these major life transitions, especially after like trauma or long-term relationships or periods of emotional disconnection?
That is a very, very beautiful question. Again, I must say, I think as a professional helper in counseling, in psychotherapies, and also trauma-focused kind of a specialist, I will provide very basic things, which is safety and trustworthy. Safety and trustworthy space for them so that they are able to feel they are able to share their stories with you without the fear of being judged or being perceived negatively or being criticized. I think that is very important. And then it's time for us to help them to reconnect their body, their bodies, okay, through mindfulness awareness, so that they know what is going on with my body right now, because body is so tangible, it's so large in terms of space, in terms of area, so they need to feel that, otherwise they don't know what are they going through. And then through breath work and also the gender self-touch exercises, not in terms of sexuality, it could be just hug themselves, just be nice to themselves, a lot of self-compassion, so that they can have certain kind of comfort and compassion to themselves. That is very, very basic things we need to do. Yeah. And then number two, I would like to look into help them to identify and then release certain kind of internalized shame, guilt, fear, negative beliefs around sex. Yeah. And then that could be rooted in the culture, just like you mentioned, culture, religions, and also upbringing, conditioning. They are being conditioned in certain way for them to think certain kind of manner. We need to help them to identify them and then say, how can we decondition this kind of belief, values, attitude, and behaviors? These are very important. And then for those people who gone through trauma, just now you mentioned, I think provide a very space for them to follow their pace is very important, because we cannot rush.
No.
For clients with certain kind of traumatic events, traumatized experiences, we need to follow their pace so that they are able to integrate trauma-focused approaches, so that we are able to reframe their sexuality again in a positive way, in a very nurturing, joyful, and self-empowering arena. That is very important. Yeah, I think that is the procedure that I normally apply it to my female clients. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are all kind of all the ways that I experienced for myself and also work with my clients. You know, for me, I had religious issues growing up, and that identity, as far as my sexuality. So I grew up with a lot of religious shame. And being a young mother, I was a mother at 17. So, of course, I was judged within the church. So that carried more religious shame. And, you know, just kind of throughout life, not really being able to trust and feel safe to experiment, even with my marital partner. You know, I had such an identity that I had inherited as a woman, and what my role was as a woman to make sure that my partner achieved pleasure and that my pleasure was not important. So having come out of a 20-year marriage where my pleasure had never been at the top of the list, and getting to spend that 3 years loving myself and learning how to love myself, sexuality was a big part of that. Being able to experience different areas of my body without shame and become educated on trust and consent and communication, to be able to verbalize and share my wants, my needs, and my desires, and to have a partner respect that and want to hear my wants, needs, and desires, was just such a huge turning point in my own sexuality that I didn't even know was possible in a relationship. And so, you know, in a lot of the work I do with clients, we also, you know, go layers deeper with, like you said, not just self-touch is in sexuality, but that human touch, that touching ourselves and being able to accept that, is also very important. So it's not just giving, but it's receiving and having your own self-worth to allow yourself to receive that kind of attention and affection from another person, where maybe all you received was abuse or neglect or abandonment. And now you get to learn that there's other kinds of touch and breath work and being present in that physical relationship, not only with yourself, but with another person. So learning how to breathe into all of those emotions, breathe into the trauma, be present with it, identify it, feel it, is really helpful in that healing process going forward, to then be able to communicate it and share it with another partner.
Absolutely. Whatever you just share with your experiences is exactly some female client experience. After many years of marriage or coupling or whatever relationship, they forget they exist sexually in an intimate way. They forget. They feel that they don't deserve. When you nudge them and then help them to understand the fact that, is there such a thing? I deserve that. It's such a so pathetic situation they had gone through without knowing. So the helping them to reclaim the self-awareness is very, very important to really come back to the home ground. Look at this is the direction you could consider. I think that is something that we need to do about that. Your personal sharing just now is absolutely what other clients that I have served, some of them gone through. You are not alone, really.
Yeah.
There are so many women who have gone through this path, really.
And I
Such
think
such a shame.
yeah, it really is. And two, I think where we have all suffered is lack of education, lack of information. So, part of, again, what I do and how I can refer other people, I work very closely with a sexual trauma coach who works with women who have been sexually abused. I work with a couple that teaches Tantra.
Oh.
And they work with individuals and they work with clients or couples. And so they're teaching that connection, that intimacy, not just what people think Tantra is, that it's sexual, but that connection, that energy connection that you can share with another person when you have that trust and safety.
Exactly. So a lot of people have this kind of misperception, yeah? It's only physical sexuality. It's not. We are talking about energy that you exchange with yourself or somebody you appreciate, you love. I think that is something is more than that. But somehow misperception just exists. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, helping people unlearn.
Unlearn is a good word. Unlearn, learn, relearn. This is a process, really.
It really is.
That's why I say, how can we decondition ourselves to certain things by the culture, by the societal expectation or whatever? We will talk about that later on. I'm sure you will ask this question.
We both like to talk about authentic living.
Yes.
Learning how to live in your authentic self. What does that look like when applied to relationships and intimacy?
Authentic self. Yeah. I want to divide the question into two parts. I think the first part will be more on like in relationship. Yeah. For relationship, I think the first thing we need to know is that knowing. Yeah. Authenticity means knowing and you honoring your own wants, needs, desires, boundaries, while respecting your partners. That is communication. How to make it very honest communication and then embrace the vulnerability that you have and showing up who you truly are, not because you think you should, you have to, you must, you ought to, you drop all these kind of things. Just who truly you are. Just that. And then for intimacy, second part I want to answer is that how are you going to express what you actually like, dislike, without feeling shame or guilt? And then how are you going to explore pleasure? Okay, and then that you align really with your beliefs, your values, your desire. And then how do you present your body in that way and then connect it without any feeling being judged? For example, BDSM. If you really believe in that, you enjoy it, do it. provided it's safe, you take responsibility to it, go ahead. That is an adult play on without shame. Yeah, that is something that we need to really feel the trust, the mutual respect and acceptance of yourself and to your partners. I think that is very important again.
Yeah, boy, you said it so perfectly and eloquently. And, those are the things that I learned from BDSM that I had never learned before through, relationships, through education, through, any other avenues. But I learned it through BDSM in the context of open, honest communication as a requirement to the dynamic, trust, and having your own ability to communicate your wants, your needs, your desires, your boundaries, and having your partner respect that, and respecting each other, and that level of communication to really know that you're in a safe space to share those wants, needs, desires, fetishes, whatever it may be, and be in a relationship that you can do that and be your most vulnerable, authentic self without the worry of shame, and judgment, and knowing that your partner will respect that and help you grow in that. That was what I received coming into a new relationship with a partner who was already involved in BDSM and kink. And that was something that I had developed in my love of myself, and my sexuality, and knowing that that was the type of relationship that I wanted going forward. And it wasn't just the term kink or BDSM, but it was the tenets of it, the open, honest communication, the consent, having all of those things. I wish that more relationships started there, because
Well
I
said.
know I didn't have that kind of communication with my partner of 20 years, because in that relationship, I was still living in a different identity in the roles that I had received as a traditional housewife, that my pleasure didn't matter. So then going to the next, phase 2 or 2.0, loving myself, to phase 3 or 3.0, to this is who I am in my full authentic self. And I get to choose how I show up.
Excellent. I am very happy for you to be yourself today. Really, really. I appreciate it very, very much. I hope a lot more women will be like you, Leann. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. How do you support your clients in healing around sexual shame, desire, gender identity? I mean, those are such difficult areas for many women to come to somebody and talk about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think first of all, this is a very good question. I would like to split them into a few portions. I think the first one, we need to recognize that shame comes from societal and cultural conditioning. As I keep saying that we are being conditioned in certain way in our family, our upbringing, our education, our societal system, practices, norm, whatever you call it, even religions. Yeah. So we are being shaped into conditioned in certain way. So shame comes from societal and cultural conditioning. So I need to provide safe and trustworthy space to my client so that we are able to unpack their beliefs, okay, and how they originated, where this actually coming from. By knowing the roots of the source of the shame, then we are able to introduce self-compassion work, narrative reframing, retell the story, psychoeducation, and then body-based exercises to replace shame with something curiosity, acceptance, and respect. That is very important. And on top of it, maybe community connection, like this podcast, support system, we talk about women's group or something like that, or even normalizing what their experiences, which is could be diverse, yeah, to A to Z. That will be able to help them that, hey, I am not alone. I am one of my sisters going through. And then able to help them to sexually and also identify their identity, which is always a valid and beautiful things they are experiencing. I think that is very significant, very, very reasonable for us to proceed this manner. I think that is the right track for us to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And that too was another one of those wonderful things I came into when I first started experiencing BDSM and kink. Was I started by being introduced to local community so that I could experience all of the things that were available to me to experience as an individual in a safe place, in a safe container. So there was education. You could attend meetings with other members of the community, which they call as a munch. It's a monthly gathering where you get together and you get education and support from within the community, from like-minded individuals. And to me, that was so empowering to see that I was not alone in what I may be interested in experiencing, that there were people who were available to help me experience it in a safe space, that I could trust. It wasn't like a dating app where I was putting myself out there for the general population and could put myself at risk. Within a local BDSM community, people are vetted within the community. They've been around long enough that they know who's safe. If you want to experience something very specific in your sexuality, that you can say, okay, well, I've been discussing this and communicating with this individual. Is this individual safe? And they also may choose to make sure that you experience that in a larger community setting versus just on one-on-one. So again, you get to experience and watch other people who've been doing this for years and how it's done safely. And you get to experience that communication and you get to experience that care of another person, and how they read each other and respect each other, and they prepare for, they disclose any traumas or triggers or, needs for after experience. And so it's all done in a way that is meant to empower you in a safe way to experience your sexual identity.
Well said, so well illustrated, so well exhibited. This is something really you went through. You said it so convincingly because you went through the whole system, the whole process, the whole journey. So this is something is proven right. We should follow this protocol. We should follow this SOP procedure, this structure. Really, it does help. We should let other more sisters to have this kind of experiences that they need, that they deserve.
Yeah, that is a great way to say that. And I think that's in a lot of what we do in growing as an individual, is that we don't have to grow alone. We don't have to get educated alone. There are people who have spent a lifetime going before us that, are now sharing that information, that education, that want to help you learn and grow. So why do it alone when you can do it in community, when you can do it in safe spaces?
Exactly. So we need to be the facilitators for people to speed up this recovery journey because we've gone through that. We know, we have the knowledge. I'm not a woman, but I help women. So I know what's what you experience it as a woman, So we know we facilitate this kind of thing so that people can speed up their recovery. That is very important. Yep.
We talked about you have this, multicultural experience.
Uh-huh.
And so you've seen women in different cultures and the identities that they come in with. How do those cultural narratives impact how people relate to sex, intimacy, and connection?
Yeah. I'm really happy that you asked this question. Eventually, this is something that me as a Chinese in Singapore, melting pot, a cosmopolitan, and you cannot deny that we are still in Asia culture, and culture does shape how we define attractiveness, how to express love, desire, and intimacy. And let's say in Singapore, in even other Asian countries, okay, a lot of emphasis is on sexual modesty, family honor, silence around sexual needs, okay? And what will do? They will suppress our sexual desires and also feel shame when we talk about sex. That is the reason I want to come into this market to help, because it's so not many service provider doing that. So the more I need to do it, even I'm a man. Yeah. So I need to help really as much as I can. And then on the other hand, in certain cultures, in certain countries, they're practicing masculinity in the sense that they will type this manliness into like sexual performance. Again, that create a lot of anxiety in men around sexual functioning. So when they have premature ejaculation, delayed ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, or performance anxiety, they are so shameful of themselves as a man. I say, oh my God, you do not need to be like that, really. So we need to redefine what is sexual performance, what is sexuality. It's more than that. So these are the things that we need to help them to recognize. Again, change the narrative, empower them so they are able to know what hold them back, so that they are able to choose the right belief and also the right value system that align with their authentic self and also their empowered living that they desire rather than societal expectations. I think that's is such a good thing for us to do, really. We are a game changer to them, So we need to do something like that, really.
Thank you for sharing both women and men and our different societal limitations and beliefs. I have started really welcoming more and more men on the podcast to, talk about masculinity and vulnerability and maybe their limiting beliefs growing up, be a man, don't cry, rub some dirt on it, expect this, don't talk about that. And the more men that I bring on that are able to be vulnerable in this space, we're sharing with the world here, and they're able to show that it is okay to not be okay. It is okay to share your feelings, your emotions, your sexual problems. I'm finding that more and more men are leaning in and finding support groups and attending retreats and being able to have those conversations. And that is such a beautiful thing to get to witness, that is a growing popularity. Here in the US, I hear more and more men, they're like, oh yeah, I go to, at least a couple of retreats every year just to be in community with other men so that we can have those conversations. And, then they bring that home and they're able to then communicate with their partner something that maybe they've never shared with another person, or it's, their own in their own head, or to be able to provide resources for them to find doctors who can help them with those issues because they were too afraid to ask. So again, yeah, I love that we're that facilitator to open those conversations. And I definitely welcome more and more men into my podcast to help be that voice for men.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, not only men and women, we are talking about any other genders. Any
Yes.
genders, no matter what it is, as long they are human being, they are individual, welcome. Learn, unlearn, relearn. Just do the things. It's very important. Be your authentic self. Be a better version of yourself for first and then for others. Make this world better. That is more our goal.
Well, I think that just like covered my, one of my last and final questions.
Okay.
What advice would you give to women who are afraid to explore this side of themselves, perhaps because of stigma or upbringing or internalized shame?
I have two, I must say, for women particularly. If you are a woman is struggling in terms of intimacy, sexuality, and relationship, I want you to be aware. I want you to start small and start with yourself. You don't have to transform overnight. Okay? Seek safe and trustworthy spaces like therapy, support group, or even community, so that you are able to express yourself, your shame, your guilt, your fears or desire openly without inviting judgmental comments or perception. And then number two, recognize that there's no normal in human sexuality these days. Normal is the button in your washing machine. That is well said by Dr. Tammy Nelson, my idol. Yeah. So but I want to add on second phrase after this one is that as long you don't hurt yourself, you don't hurt others. That is all right. Yeah. So because sexuality is yours alone, and then you do not need any confirmation, any support, any agreement or whatever from others. What do they expect on you? You are the one with the full 100% ownership. Yeah. As long you are able to protect yourself, not hurting other people, that is fine. Because you are worthy for pleasure, for connection, and the joy at every stage in your life as a woman. So again, reintroduce this word for the third time, self-reclaiming your life, because there's an act of self-love, healing, and empowerment.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was perfectly said. Where can people connect with you?
Okay, they can go to the website of Underneath the Moon. My profile is always there. They can I do provide 15 minutes free consultation, and I also receive new clients as well. So since I'm in Singapore, if somebody want to look for me in terms of service or whatever, I only can provide online services. Yeah. In fact, I am in Switzerland right now. I have been relocated to Zurich, Switzerland. I'm living in Switzerland right now, but I still provide my service to worldwide through online. Again, the beauty of technology.
Absolutely. I will make sure and include that in the show notes so that people are aware of where they can locate you, and that you are accepting new clients. That's always valuable information. And that you are basically almost 100% virtual, I'm assuming, or you have an office?
I do. This is my service. This is my therapy room in Zurich right now. Yeah, you're seeing that.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
Beautiful.
but for other rather than Zurich or other parts of Switzerland, I provide online services. I think is equally effective and impactful.
Yep. Let me just add that to my notes. Krish, I want to thank you so much for your compassionate and grounding conversation. You've reminded us that intimacy isn't just about sex. It's about safety, trust, curiosity, and reclaiming our stories. For our audience, if you are listening and something in this conversation resonated with you today, whether you're navigating a big change, questioning your identity, or longing for deeper connection, know that you are not alone. Resilience isn't just about surviving the storm. It's about finding yourself again on the other side and sometimes discovering new desires along the way. So for more information on Krish's work, be sure to check out the show notes. And as always, if you loved this episode, share it with a friend, leave a review, and always keep your happiness on tap. Thank you so much, Krish. It was such an honor to share this time with you.
It's totally my pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.